Hello. Hi. Just here today. I'm wanting to record this video. It's nothing special. It's just about me confessing to you who I am, what I do, why I'm even making this video. Just to be raw and authentic with you all. I'm not, tech savvy when it comes to videography, cinematography kind of a work. I'm just put the camera up and record. So I just hope that this video really inspires somebody, because I don't want this to be looked at as a video that I'm trying to do something super enormous with. It's just me talking to somebody who I feel want to hear what I have to say. 10 years ago, well, it would actually be 11 years ago, this coming Christmas, 2017, I went through a tragic situation. I was a father early on at the age of 19. And then I became a father again at the age of 23. By the same woman I mentioned that. I had a daughter. I have a daughter. She was 4. And in 2006, this is 2006 I'm talking about, I'm referencing to. My daughter was 4 years old. She's now 14. And I had a son. He was 4 months old. And 11 years ago this Christmas Day, this is my first time, by the way, putting this out on video. Most people probably heard this and probably posted it themselves, but it's the first time I'm posting it. 2006, 11 years ago this coming Christmas, I lost my son. He was 4 months, as I mentioned, and I lost him to a tragic house fire. I remember being at the home with my family, my small family. It was my girlfriend, my daughter, my son, and my girlfriend's mom when we were there on Christmas Day, hanging out together, just enjoying the season and the holiday. And I remember getting a phone call from a friend of mine who called me to come over to the other side of town. Christmas had done took its course, ran its course for that day. Of course, so this got to be about 7:30, maybe 8 o'clock at night. And Christmas had done ran its course. I did everything I needed to do as a father by participating with my children. So my friend called and I went to go check up and see what was going on in the neighborhood. And by the time I reached the neighborhood, my phone rang again. And this time it was my girlfriend. When I looked at the caller ID and saw her on the other end, I asked myself, why would she be calling me? I just left from over there, and I almost didn't pick up, but I did. And I picked up the phone, and my girlfriend and a bunch of other people were yelling and screaming. I can hear this in the background. And my girlfriend is really screaming loud and hysterically, and horrifically. And she barely got the words out when she said, "Hurry up, get back home. The house is on fire." And that's when I jumped back in my vehicle. I drove very fast. I broke the speed limit, probably double digits, double the speed limit. I probably was doing double the speed limit. And I get back in my vehicle and I get back to the house, my home. And when I approached the street where I lived, I could see already neighbors outside their homes and a bunch of other people outside their homes. and a lot of people were screaming. And I saw fire trucks and flashing lights everywhere. And sirens going off. When I approached, when I get ready to approach my yard, my front of my house, I kind of was in shock. So I stood there like, what just happened? What's really going on? Like, seriously, I'm like, I just left here 15 minutes ago. What's happening? So I get home. I approach my house, frantically yelling for my family, calling their names, calling my daughter's name, calling my girlfriend's name, calling out all the names to my family, my small little family. It was that made up 4 of us all together. That's including me. And I kept seeing the firemen motion people to get back, because people were actually trying to go into the house. And I'm wondering, like, why is people trying to go into the house? So I'm yelling for my family. Where is my family? And I'm calling the names. And then my girlfriend saw me. She approached me. And I'm yelling at her, screaming at her in her face. And I look at her and I say, where are the kids? And she said my daughter was with her mom. And my son, he was trapped inside the home. My girl couldn't get to the baby boy, and I did everything in my power to try and overpower 6'5", 300-pound firemen, who of course would not let me go inside. Rightfully so, because when I looked at them and told them that I was going inside this house and they weren't going to do anything to stop me, well, they told me you can't go inside the house because the roof is just collapsed. And so now I have all these emotions going through me. I'm running scared. I'm running wild, and I'm losing my mind. I don't know what to do. I'm really scared because I know where my son's room window is, and I could see it, and I was just like begging for these firemen to just please let me in. Let me in, please. And I knew if I went in, I was going in to really die. I wasn't coming out. I knew if I was going in, I was going in not to come out. And I was okay with that, even though I was leaving my daughter behind. I was okay with that because if it was my daughter, I would have done the same thing. You see, firemen would not let me in. So now I'm sitting in my yard, my front yard, watching my house burn down to smoke, burn up in smoke, to ashes, and my son's inside. And these firemen, who I believe were supposed to go in and save my son, did not go in and save my son. And that became a big problem for me, because I was willing to go in and at least try. They didn't even try, but they were told to stand down by the chief. So now I'm standing in this grass. Everybody around me is crying. My family somehow get there. My mom and sisters and siblings, they somehow found their way to my home. And I'm the only one in a state of like, I'm frozen. I'm frozen. Everyone else is crying. Everyone else is yelling. Everyone else is screaming. When I knew I could not do anything to go in and save my son's life, I stopped. The world stopped for me. Everything stopped. It went blank for me. And I just did not understand why his life could not be saved, or no one could even try. And I was pain, because I couldn't even go in and at least try. And at that moment, I don't know what your beliefs is. I'm not here to put any religious beliefs into this story. I just want to say this. I heard the voice of God. Now, whether that was my spirit or some entity, I heard a voice in my head. And I remember asking this voice. When I could no longer do anything to save my son's life. I remember asking this voice, why couldn't I go in and save my son's life? And I heard back, it wasn't your mission to save your son's life. Then I asked the voice again, now, and I'm going to call this voice God, okay? Because that, to me, the creator of all things, I look at as God. And I asked God, I said, well, why couldn't the firemen who are trained to go in and save my son's life? And the voice of God spoke back to me, it wasn't their mission to save your son's life. And I asked God again, well, why couldn't my son's life be saved? And I heard the voice of God reply back, because it was your son's mission to save your life. Now, you may wonder, why did he need to save my life? But a lot of you don't know. I'm here to confess to you that I was a high school dropout. I'm the second oldest of 8 children. I left home when I was 16 years old. I was in and out of the juvenile system all the way up until my adult age, till I was about 22, 23 years old. Even while I was a dad, I was in and out of jail, in and out of juvenile detention. I don't know my biological father. I had a stepfather who was there, but really wasn't there at the time. He was there and he loved me, but he wasn't being what I needed that male figure to be in my life. And so I kind of, made my own way, lost myself, and tried to find my own way. And I started to sell drugs. I started to get involved with gangs, and I started to live a life that just wasn't conducive to being productive. I was actually, sliding down into an early grave, and I just remember, when my son passed, hearing that voice of God, and it was a reminder to me when I heard God say it was my son's mission to save my life. It took me back to all those years of failing out of school, being a high school dropout, having no biological father in my life, being like the only, boy basically in my family. I have a little brother, but he was a young baby, and I had sisters who surrounded me mostly, and I just lost my way. I lost my way, and I didn't know how to deal with it or anything. When I lost my son, and God spoke to me, that was Christmas 2006. The whole year of 2007 was a blur to me. It was a blur. I cannot remember anything I did in 2007. But I can tell you this. I was living with 2 other roommates, and after my son passed, let me back up a little bit. Me and my girlfriend broke up, not because of his death, but because of other reasons. And so I moved in with 2 other roommates, and I used to have a job by then. I had a job by this time, and I was going to work only, go to work, come home, shut myself off from the world in my room. I did nothing else for a whole year. I did not go outside. I did not play basketball. I did not call up friends. I had no phone. You could not get in contact with me all of 2007 because I was ridden with guilt. I had pain in my heart from losing my son, the closest family member you can lose as a child. And to me, that was the ultimate loss. And I went into a deep depression. I went into loneliness. I went into a dark corner of the world and just used that space to just shut myself off from everybody. I didn't want to be attached to no one. And in that dark corner of the world for a whole year, 365 days, I did not know how to cope. I did not know how to figure things out. I did not know how to go about living life again, because I thought you're not supposed to come back from this. I thought you're supposed to just stay down in this place forever. Well, I got to tell you, I found the method. I found the way. God started to speak to me in my heart. God got to me in that place by myself, all alone, in the dark, and he brought me light. And God shed light in my heart. And the light that he shed in my heart was just inspirational, very powerful words I was using. And I started to just journal the words God was putting on my heart. And I started to journal. I started to write, and I started to do poetry, write poetry. And I started to look at all of my writings after that year of writing. I saw all of these writings, and I said, wait a minute. This is beautiful stuff. Like, literally, seriously beautiful stuff. I'm not just tooting my own horn, but I knew it was something beautiful. And God gave me writing. God gave me poetry. God gave me that outlet to be able to release that pain and release that guilt and live again and learn how to live again. And I tell you what, that day, I started to just look at all of my poems and reflect on all of them. I started to just write out my story. And I started to write very emotional, very emotional. I prison myself to my bedroom. Other than going to work, I come home, I prison myself to that bedroom. Psychologically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, I prison myself to that bedroom. But in that bedroom, I started to write, not just poetry, but I started to write my story. I was saying to myself, how do I break out of this madness? How do I get out of this? How do I break out of this prison that I am in? And with that writing, I just took to the computer, the laptop, and I started journaling and writing down my story. And I share with you my story right now in this book called Breaking Out, Escape the Fear of Failure. This is my first official book, and this is just a story of how I broke out of the system, the systematic guilt that I was giving myself. And God told me, he said, Marcus, you are not guilty of your son's death. You are not guilty for not having to go in there and be able to save him. You're not guilty of that. I use that to save you because I have a bigger message I need you to get out to the world. And I want you to get this message out to the world, to those who live in the place of guilt, to those who live in the place of pain, to those who live in a place of depression, to those who live in a place of loneliness. God gave me the words to give to you through this book I wrote called Breaking Out. And I want you to know you can find this book on Amazon at Marcus. My name is there, Marcus A. Clark, Marquess. You can find this book on Amazon. You can follow me on social media at Marcus Inspires and follow my journey. I wrote on this book over 100,000 inspired. I haven't sold 100,000 copies yet, but it's my mission, it's my goal to get this book out to 100,000 people. I'm going to personally put this book in the hands of 100,000 people because I believe that's the number, that's the magic number where I can really see a difference made in the world. Not in just individuals' lives, but 100,000 people can really all together change the whole world. And that means everywhere, everywhere. You can really change the world with that kind of a number. And so my goal is to inspire 100,000 lives personally before 2020. I don't know why I chose 2020, but it was just a number that God gave me. I'm going to inspire 100,000 lives. I've already sold 100 copies of this book, and it's reaching people. Literally, I'm not even in control of how many people it's reaching, but I know personally I put 100 books in the hands of 100 people. And I just need your help to just share this video, share this message, share what I've spoken here today to get this story out, to get this message out. Breaking out, escape the fear of failure. I was scared to live my life again, but God told me I don't have to be afraid. I don't have to be afraid to try and fail. I don't have to be afraid to live again. I learned how to live again through this story. I tell you, my poetry, my writing, it was therapeutic. And you're going to get the very emotional things that I wrote at the time of me going through that dark scene in my life. You're going to get that passion, that inspiration, and that life that God spoke to me through my son's death. I want you to be able to come back to life as well. I want to say this to you before I end this video. I don't want to inspire you to live your dreams. I want to inspire you from your dreams to now live your life. Let me say that again. I don't want to inspire you to live your dreams. I want to inspire you to live your life. Get out of your dreams and get into your life. I got out of my dreams by writing my story. It became therapeutic, and I got into my life, and I saw changes. I saw people change. Hundreds of people changed by my story. 100 people changed by my book, but hundreds of lives changed by me speaking, sharing my poetry, and inspiring others with this life. I just want to thank you all for being here, and I want to say this to you. For those of you who are living in pain, living with pain, living alone, living with depression, God said that you are not guilty. You are not judged. God didn't judge me. When I judged me, God didn't judge me. He told me I was not guilty. And now I want you to live guilt-free because it's time for you to live. I thank you. I appreciate you. I love you. Follow my journey. MarcusInspires.com. Marcus Inspires on Twitter. Marcus Inspires on Instagram. And just share this story. Share this story, please. I'm trying to get this book out to 100,000 people so I can change those lives. Share this. Thank you. I appreciate you and I love you. breaking out. Escape the fear of failure. You're not in prison anymore. I love you. Peace.